Alright guys, what's going on? Welcome to WMHD's production lessons. A little bit about myself. My name is Jeremy. Been producing for about 2.5 years now, sophomore ME, and I've been using FL Studio for about a year and a half, so I've gotten kind of the hang of this software. Um, so to get started with, let's just go over some of the basics. I'm thinking about for this um, lessons probably do maybe a short video each week and then have maybe songwriting sessions or production sessions on the weekends. Saturday, probably around 2-ish, depending about every week. Let's see what if depending on the amount of homework and time that we all have. So that's the tentative plan. Um, anyway, so these tips are not applicable only to FL Studio that I'm using right here, and that's called a DAW, your digital audio workspace. So there's other different kinds. There's FL Studio, there's Cubase, there's Ableton, there's Logic. There's a bunch of different kinds of DAWs that you can use to make music. It doesn't have to be just one. And the tips that I'm going to give you in this video and in the coming videos will apply to every DAW that you use, any kind of software you're using. It's not specific only to the FL Studio. So let's start off with what are called samples. So samples is pretty much another name for your sound, your instrument, your any kind of noise that you want to have included in your song. So on the left side, there for FL Studio, there's a bunch of packs that come already um, with the installation that I believe every DAW comes with some presets of samples that you should be able to choose from. So in here, we can choose from drums. There's Flex, which is a synthesizer with presets that you can choose. That's an FL Studio only. There's different instruments. You can choose bass, guitars, keyboards, choir, all that kind of stuff. And there's different sound effects, risers, all those kinds of things that come already pre-installed. So you don't need to go around buying a bunch of samples to get the sounds you want. There are also a lot of free ones, like Cymatics has a lot of free packs that they'll give out. They have a ton of good sounds. I highly recommend if you want to get more sounds, you check them out first. Um, so right here we have the channel rack. So right here, it start off automatically with a sampler. This is just the basic startup menu. The sampler is really not necessary. It doesn't play anything. You can open the piano roll and put down notes like this, and it won't play anything. But if you were to, let's say, let's load in a piano, FL keys, it's a basic one that comes with FL Studio, you'll be able to see, as long as you have the ghost notes highlighted, it's in helpers, editable ghosts, um, or having ghost channels on. So you could highlight the notes for a scale in your sampler and then just play it like that. Or another good uh, feature that FL Studio has is if you're not completely aware of music theory and you don't know all about it, you can go to the helpers, scale highlighting, and you can choose major, minor, all these different scales, and it will automatically, let's just choose, it will automatically choose it will show up the notes that you can play in that scale in the lighter gray. So we have F, so this is F major, and it will have all these notes that lay within the scale. So if you're ever playing anything that's not lightly shaded, you'll be able to hear it and you can tell that it's out of scale. Um, so we have this selected right now, and we also have this mixer down here. So this section is called the mixer. We've got different inserts that we can link all of our sounds to. So if I wanted to hook the piano up to this, we'll get rid of the sampler so it's not there. If I wanted to hook the piano up to this mixer track, I could hit Control L, or I could right click and then do route to track, assign to the track. So what you can do with this is you can add different effects to the piano. So let's say I'll just put in a simple F major chord, and I want to put on some effects. So different effects that they have, there's delay, there's reverbs, a lot of things you may hear before, chorus, flanger, that kind of thing. There are a ton of different effects. Let's say we'll just put on some reverb, and I want it to sound really, really wide. So there's presets you can choose from, or you can go into the settings here. We'll get to that in another time. But we'll turn up the wet knob, turn up the size, turn up the decay. So now it sounds something like this. And you can hear the notes lasting longer than it did if we turned it off. Okay, so that is the mixer. This is we'll get more into depth into this in the coming videos. These are all routed to the master. This is your master channel where you can put effects on. So if you have you have a piano and you have different drums, these all route through the master. So if you want to have effects that will apply to each of your samples, each of your sounds, then you do it on the master channel. So this is what you do when you're, say, mastering a track. You want to get the volume to be consistent so that you can have it and upload it to, say, Spotify or YouTube or something like that. You do a lot of the work on this area. You do not only the master track, but in each of these plugins as well. Okay, so next part, let's get into actually getting some music going. So right now we have the F major scale selected. So we can start, usually what I start doing when I want to make a new beat or a new instrumental, I'll lay down some chords and I'll just make a simple chord progression. So I wanna have the bass line going. Okay, so that's all right. So we can do that. Okay, so right now it'll sound like this. Got the first chord. And if you want to make each of these into chords, you can simply go and skip one note. Or if you know a bit of music theory, you can skip 3 spaces, put it on the fourth. That'll give you a major. And then you go up another 2 and you put it on the third one. So you skip 3 and then you'll skip 2. And this is a major chord. It's not in the scale. So it should be a D minor chord, which lies within the F major scale. But if you wanted to go out of the scale, that is one way you could do it. To change from major to minor. So major is 3 spaces and then 2 spaces. Minor is 2 spaces and then 3 spaces. So let's go with that. Do a minor there. So we got major, minor. And this is going to be a minor as well. And another one, this will be a major. Okay, so we got a good start. If you wanted, you could change up the rhythm. You could add a couple notes in between. That kind of leads into the melody part. But if you want to make it sound like a really thick sound, you could change the octaves. So what I'm doing here is a couple shortcuts. I selected it, I hit Control, and then I right click or left click, and I drag over it, and that selects it. If you hit Shift and click, it will duplicate the note. So you have now 2 of these notes. And then if you hit Control up or Control down, that will move them up or down an octave. So I want to do that. Control Shift, select multiple. Put those up an octave, and I'll drop the bass notes down an octave as well. And this will just give you a thicker sound. So this is just going to loop because it's only a 4-bar pattern. We'll get into the layouts of songs at another point. But in FL Studio, it will stop at the last measure that you have filled. So 4 is the full measure here. These don't go into 5. So after this measure, it will repeat back to 1. Okay. So we got chord progression. What we could do is we could duplicate that, play it again and again over and over through the song, which would get kind of boring. So what I like to do is I like to change up maybe the last one. We'll add in a couple notes somewhere or something um, that are within the scale. So we've got a D here. We already raised that one up an octave. So let's make this a seventh. So this, a bit of music theory, this makes it a, I think it's a ninth chord actually. I can't remember. But the point is it will sound a bit different than this previous chord. So you've got a bit more dissonance now. That's another music theory thing. If you want to take music theory is not required for making music. It's something that can definitely help, but it's not something you have to do if you want to be one of the top. If you want to make music, it's really subjective. Whatever sounds good to you is good music. So we've got that pattern going. And let's just make a bit of a quick melody. So I'll open up another piano, and in this one, a easy way to make melodies is to just follow between the top notes of your original chords. So we've got a C here, and then we've got A, and E, back to F. So if you, it will show up if you have ghost notes enabled. You can see the notes that you played in the chords, typically following the notes that are in your chords, and then you can either raise them an octave, lower them, depends on what kind of sound you have. Since right now the chords are pretty full, I'm actually going to raise these an octave, maybe two, so you can hear it a bit more audibly. Then we could just repeat that. Let's do that again. Another quick shortcut. Right-clicking on this top bar allows you to select a section of it, and then if you hit Control B, it will duplicate whatever is within that section. So we've got that repeating. So there we go. We've already got our first bit of a song going. And yeah, so it's a pretty easy start. We'll get into more developed and more advanced techniques later on. Um, but like I said, on Saturdays, probably around 2 o'clock, I'll probably do Discord, I'll stream making a beat or two. And then if you guys have any songs that you have made or you want to get opinions of, that's a great way to improve your music. If you get a bunch of opinions and feedback on it, and then use that, that is a great way to improve. But yeah, this has been the first lesson, and I'll see you guys soon.